Hi, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of the Inspire View series for 2016. And I'm ending it with an awesome lady who I'll tell you a little bit more about in a second. But my whole inspiration for creating this series was to inspire everybody who watches it to follow their passion in any way, shape, or form that they can, because it really it boosts you up in so many ways when you do what you love to do. Even if you can't do it full time, if you incorporate it into your life in some way, it makes a huge difference. So this lady wears many hats, I will say, and I'm going to introduce her to you. She has also, in addition to what I'm about to share with you, she has also been one of the coaches that has collaborated in the two books that I wrote chapters for this year, which was completely unexpected. That's a whole other interview. But right now, I want to introduce you to Patti O'Leary, and I'm going to say that as two words. It's a little inside joke. She is a wearer of many hats, like I said, as an educator, certified nutritional therapist, and integrative health and life coach. She's on a mission to teach women how to create clarity and take small, sustainable steps toward living healthier, more empowered lives by making choices with purpose. Patti's lived in my neck of the woods where I grew up in Massachusetts and New Hampshire most of her life, but she has relocated to Nashville, Tennessee 6 years ago. So she's still kind of a newbie to that area, but she says she's not a Yankee, but she is a Red Sox fan. And both her amazing children, Andrew and Casey, have worked for the Boston Red Sox. How cool is that? I'm sure that they're pretty proud about that. Patti has a gift for teaching and is an absolute passion. It is an absolute passion of hers, with over 12 years of experience in special education, teaching and supporting a variety of learners of all ages. Patti loves helping others discover how they learn best while providing tools and support that connect information in a way that not only makes sense, but can be easily applied. It is her desire that everybody become lifelong learners. And I think she makes it happen in a way that doesn't feel like drudgery. So welcome, Patti O'Leary, to the Inspire View series. I say that because she commented once on how so many people just run her name together like Patti O'Leary. So now I have this conscious thing in my head to make sure I separate it. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it's fine. I love actually that people think Patti O'Leary is all one word because they remember it.
It just flows. It just flows together. It's like a natural thing.
You even said your father had referred to me as Patti O'Leary.
Yes, I believe he did. Yes. But he read and reviewed our first book. So tell us a little bit about how you've got a lot of things on your plate. I know you're a very busy woman. So how did you get to this place and find your passion in what you do? And the different areas, I guess. Like, how does it all come together?
It does all come together, which is amazing. When we start to become coaches, people always give you that look like, oh, are you going to do that life coach thing, huh? Okay. But it all works together. Right now, I'm currently an educator with a homeschool tutorial day program, and I teach students from second grade to high school. I have students that have mild to moderate learning disabilities and learning challenges, but I also have students that are advanced as well. So I have to differentiate my instruction daily, every moment of every day. And I find that, no matter what age the learner is, it also works with my clients, the adults as well. And it's funny, I've had the opportunity to coach parents as well, because parents that have children that have learning challenges or learning differences, a lot of times that's why they've taken them out and they're homeschooling them. And the only requirement for homeschooling is that they have to have a high school diploma. So a lot of these learning challenges, they're not prepared to work with, and you get exhausted. I mean, the first thing that you have when you find out your child has learning differences, you kind of grieve, and you kind of worry, like, how am I going to support that? And you have to start thinking outside yourself. And I did that as well. My son has some learning challenge. And I remember the first thing was, why is it so hard for him? It was so easy for me.
Right.
And thinking, how am I going to support this? And I remember having those, and people that have a child that has a learning difference will recognize this. We would have homework fights, because you'd start teaching them, they come home for homework and you'd look over their homework and you're trying to make it easier for them because they're struggling. And you try and show them how you used to do it. Yeah. Well, here's the problem with that. You have a child who is learning in the classroom for the first time. And when you change what the teacher's telling them, you have now confused them. They don't know who to believe or who to trust. And they don't know which way is right. And so you've confused them even more. So a tip I always give the parents is ask the child, how did the teacher explain it? And then kind of build from there.
Instead of getting pissy like I do and saying, this is just another way to get to the same answer. Just do it like this because I don't know what they're teaching.
And here's the thing, exactly how you said that, you get upset.
Right.
What's going on inside of them?
Right.
Because here they're thinking, you're doing it with your understanding and your understanding is frustrated. So imagine a new learner's frustration at the same thing. And here you are yelling at them. They're already frustrated. They're being yelled at. They're probably going to melt into tears. There's going to be a pencil flying across the room any minute, and papers are going to be torn up, and then nobody's happy, and it's dinner time. So, yeah. Exactly that. So, and the point of homework isn't for them to get it right. It's for them to practice what they've learned. And if a teacher gets back homework that's incomplete or homework that's not correct, the teacher will assess that's somewhere they may need more practice in. That's the purpose of homework. It's not to be graded.
Ideally,
where the learning where the gaps are.
Maybe that's how you teach.
That is how I teach.
Yeah, that's not how the regular schools teach. But
right. Right. And I remember, and it's funny because I remember, and this goes with how I learned what I do. I remember sitting in a meeting with a principal talking about where the best placement was for my son. And they were saying to me, you just don't understand. You're not a teacher. You don't understand. And I said, I may not be a teacher in your school, but I am going to be his educator for the rest of his career in school. I'm going to have to support his learning throughout all these years. So I need to know, I know him as a learner. I know where his placement is best. He needs to be in they want to put him in a multi-age classroom. And I said, no, he needs a straight first grade. And it was the best thing to be able to stand up for my child, not based on what I felt or what I needed, based on his needs, based on the learner's needs. And then advocating for him, but also teaching him so he could advocate for himself. We can't do everything for them all the time.
Right.
We have to empower them so that they can have self-efficacy and they can be able to do it for themselves. And that's what I do with my students and I do with my clients. Show them how they can, give them the tools and the resources, show them how to use it, let them start applying it, and then let them go with it. Let them start applying it on their own.
Right. And I was going to bring that up too, because when, with your coaching clients, you've got, I did that little and I've totally forgotten the name of the assessment thing that you do. Do you do that with all of your clients?
Yes, I just started doing it with more of my clients. I used to do it on every once in a while, but now I started doing it with teams. And I do a VIA, core character strengths assessment.
I should have looked that up before.
That's okay.
But, we go with the flow. So it's
and you're doing an amazing job with your interview series, and I would never attempt to do that all on my own. So if that's part of interviewing, ask them what it is you use. But it's a VIA, core character strengths assessment. And I find that it's so helpful. At first I didn't use it, and it was hard to assess in an adult what their supports needed. Because in a child, it's easy. They don't mask. They don't hide. But adults don't want to show where their weaknesses are. And they don't want you to know it. But in order to be most effective, you need to know where their strengths are lower. So you can help them, and that's what I like about the VIA. So you can help them exercise those strengths and increase their upper strengths too in the process. And I think when we did yours, you saw that I could tell what your top strengths were, and I could see what your lower strengths were. They were still all strengths. It's a core 24. We all have the same core 24. It's just how they align for each other that makes you.
Right.
And the ones that are lower, when they're stressed, and they're low and they're being stressed and they're being taxed, your upper strengths, even though they're really positive, will start to get stressed as well. And your super strengths become a little wonky. And that's where we don't want you to be. We want you to be able to use your super strengths, exercise your lower strengths so that you're well balanced. And that's what I've been using with our team for the collaboration,
right.
Also with my clients as well. And it's great because you can't fake it. And I think when you take the assessment, a lot of people try and, cheat a test,
right,
or skew it. And you can't do that with this. And it came out you. I know when we were going over those results, you were like, oh, that is me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty amazing how these things work. And I'm sure it helps you when you're coaching people because you got like this little window into their personality and their world and how they get through the day. And then you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can mold like how you're coaching to them, specifically to them, using what you know from this process. And then it helps them actually get where they want to go.
Exactly.
Because of the way that you have that insight into them that we usually are not really consciously aware of until somebody points out.
Right. I can look at those strengths that need to be exercised, give some resources, find some techniques, and supplement that strength so that you're able to use it more. And once you identify it, once you're more aware of it, you'll see how they both work together. Even though there's upper strengths and lower strengths, they're also your strengths. And you want to be able to use those efficiently. And so once somebody, like you said, and as coaches too, we're very aware of ourselves. And there's a lot of things that we know and we can do, but we forget.
Mm-hmm.
And or we're so busy taking care of everyone else, even as parents, we're so busy taking care of all those other needs that we just neglect ours, or we put it off, or we think, oh, I know that. How many times do you say, oh yeah, I know that?
Yeah.
But do you apply it?
No. You're just like, yeah, I know. And you move on to something else.
Because we're so busy, and you and I are two of the busiest women I know that we're getting stuff done every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Some days more than others, for sure. But
others. Some days ninja work, but
that's right. So I think what you do is great and inspiring for people that think that maybe it's all or nothing with if they wanted to get into coaching, or they have some other interest. Maybe they create artwork or something, wherever it is that their passion lies, that's not maybe in their full 9-to-5 type of job. So how do you, because you are crazy busy with being a teacher and taking on even more responsibilities in that role recently, how do you incorporate doing coaching and your teaching? Or does it kind of flow?
That was a huge challenge. Like when, because the first thing as a coach, you hear, narrow your niche, right. niche. And I'm like, oh, do you say it niche? I don't know. But, I found out that it was freer for me when I didn't try to narrow what I did. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that I'm a woman of faith, when I realized that God gives us every experience for a reason, we're going to use it. And I would have never thought in the beginning of this calendar year, that, because you always hear, well, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Well, I kept asking myself, what am I going to do with that? Where am I going to find these clients? Am I struggling? And as soon as I released myself from that, having to narrow it, having to name it, just use it.
Right. It
all came flowing in. And I couldn't have tailor-made the job I have now better than what it is, and that's, to me, that's stepping out in faith. Do the work, release the outcome. And so now I teach these students. I use all those experiences in special education that I use with my students then to help support the needs of these learners. Mm. I also use all the experience from coaching to help support the parents that I support, to help assess these students. I've been able to work with adults and with children, because I think you can see a lot of times when you interact with people, they're really, some of those things, they're just grown up and still have the same things,
right,
that they haven't either addressed or they're still having challenges with. And how best to support that.
Right.
How best to support that and bring it out in them, give them tools so they can shine. Because to me, that's the most important thing. I love the look on a learner's face when they get it. they get it. I mean, and by not narrowing what I do, but stepping out into all of it, I've been able to support kids in second grade, parents, PhD candidates. I've sat in a colloquium and I've helped professors teach better. I've helped the students in that colloquium who are PhD candidates receive the information better and understand how to apply it better to their life. And that wasn't just something I had, like, that wasn't on my agenda. Just be aware. Be aware of where you can be of service. Where you can be of service.
I agree. And it's just taking the action, because I know I was there myself and trying to nail down what I wanted to do. Or I've mentioned this before in some other interviews, resisting what I was good at because I didn't want it to be so much like my 9-to-5 job was, right? But then I was like, what do you really enjoy doing? And what gets you excited and lights you up? I was asking myself that. and it ended up being getting shit done. So it was a lot like all my jobs. When I thought back on my whole history of working throughout my whole life, a lot of it was like that. So it's always kind of been there. So you have to actually take the action and move in that direction to kind of figure out the path that you're going in. I think, it's the action. And I know I heard a lot of people say that before, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. How can I move? I don't even know what I'm doing. But it actually ended up flowing like that. So it seems like you've got a common thread between what you do, and you just naturally do it. So it just naturally leads you down those paths and brings those opportunities to you. But if you hadn't ever kind of taken that step or put your foot on that gas pedal, you wouldn't even probably have gone down this road, or you'd be still stuck just sitting and thinking about narrowing down your niche.
Yes, exactly. And that's the big thing. I mean, the biggest thing for me is, where can I be of service? Where am I of service? And then what resources do I have? Be aware of everything you have. I'm a firm believer that God gives us everything we need. And the key to everything. Sometimes we are looking for a key. Well, guess what? It's not going to be a real physical key. It's going to give you the things you need to get through your day, or the resources you need to better understand what's going on. Right. And a lot of times people will say, why is this happening to me again? Why do I always have this? Well, what are you doing? Are you doing the same thing and expecting something different to happen? Well, that's not good. It's not going to work. You've got to start changing something you do, even the smallest thing. I mean, with these students that I work with now, I'm able to use essential oils in my classroom. So that not only helps keep us, our immune system more protected and better, so we're not all getting the sniffly sneezies, but it also works with mood and behavior. There's ways to support that as well. So I found, and I'll experiment with my students sometimes, and I'll put different blends in the diffuser, but find out what that is. Also support yourself nutritionally. I mean, you can't feed yourself junk and expect your brain to function optimally, or your body or your hormones. Right. So we need to be more aware of that. And yes, of course, our food has changed. We're not all, people say, well, especially when they hear about gluten-free, they think, well, yeah, that's just a thing. No, it's a real thing. Our food has changed. Our food has been genetically modified, and our body has not been able to keep up. Mm-hmm. And we're putting so much in it, and so many of these things that we would not normally have. It's not the same food that our parents had. It's not the same food some of us had when we were growing up.
Right.
It's different, and it's having different effects on our bodies and our minds and our behaviors. And being aware of that and noting that we have that choice. We're always in choice. We can choose to make a different thing, and we don't have to validate our choice. We don't have to say, well, I'm doing this because. Just do it. Just change it.
Yeah. And I talk about awareness all the time, and it's the awareness, like even hearing somebody say something like that kind of puts this little awareness nugget in your head where you're like, so the next time you hear something, or the next time something comes up, or you encounter an obstacle or a health issue or something, you're like, I have that choice. I have the choice to find something that works better. I don't have to sit here and just tolerate, which I think is like so important.
Exactly. And I think that's true as a coach too. We're ultra aware. A lot of us, we're ultra aware, self-aware. Right. But a lot of times we don't apply anything we learn because we're so busy helping others.
Hey, that's what we do. We don't practice what we preach. No, I'm kidding. Often I don't. I'm so guilty of doing that. But I'm great at getting other people to get shit done and organize this stuff. Me, I have to really sit down and force it.
I do. Well, I have been better at it than I was before. But I always think too, every time we get on a plane, every single time you get on a plane, what do? They do that emergency protocol.
Right.
And they always tell you, put your oxygen mask on first.
Yep.
I mean, you hear it every time, and sometimes it's like wah, wah, wah in your head. But other times, stop for a minute and think, in your life, are you putting your oxygen mask on first? Because if not, you're going to run yourself ragged and you're going to fall to the ground. And then you just create an obstacle that people have to trip over. So don't do that. Right. So definitely put your oxygen mask on first. And if you're not walking your walk, walking your talk, then it'll be evident. It'll be evident to others that you're not doing what you need to do. You're not, I know that I try to always be joyful. There's always something I can be grateful for. And people always say, is that really who you are? Well, it really is every day, because I am grateful for the experiences I have in my life. I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned. And I always look for that way. How can it be applied now? And when I see somebody struggling, I think, oh, okay, maybe I can help.
Yeah. Love that.
But we're not there to save, we can't save the world. Like motivation is an inside job. I talk about that in the book too. Motivation is an inside job. We can create an environment where motivation can thrive, but we can't make someone change. And so as coaches, we can, a lot of times we'll have clients that we struggle with, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? Well, are you just telling them, are you giving them ways that they can apply it? Are you applying it? And so that's the big thing. Create an environment for them. Create, tangible ways that they can work these things in. They can apply it to their lives, and give them a safe place to practice it. Because things don't happen all the time. And if you find that a client's not making the progress you want, maybe it's your timeline that they're not meeting. Maybe you need to adjust it, because just like I do with my students, I have to do it on an individual basis based on their learning needs and challenges. It's the same with our clients. What do we need to adjust for their learning needs and challenges? And if a client's not making the progress you want in the timeline you want, then maybe you need to change your timeline. Depends on what I would say, depends on what you're assessing. Right. Are you assessing, can they complete your program? Or are you assessing that they're understanding and that there's understanding there and they can apply it, what they're learning?
And sometimes I've found too, personally, in working with coaches, that sometimes I'm not quite there yet. Like I'm learning, I'm soaking everything up, and it's just taking me longer, because sometimes there's a little resistance to something maybe, but it's just a little workaround that you have to do too. And it's important that people don't beat themselves up over not moving the way somebody expects them to, or the way that you think you should. Because that can happen too, and then you start feeling bad that you're not doing what's expected, but there's something that's holding you back. And sometimes it's just a matter of time, really. It's just a little deeper thinking, or wiggling it around in a different manner, and then you're like, oh yeah, just like learning algebra. So that kind of
bring that up. But it's true. We all process things differently, and we have to allow that processing time.
Right.
I know there's times when my man will, if I'm talking to Chuck and I'm telling him something, my mind's already going a million miles an hour. I've already thought of the problem. I've already solved the problem. I've already thought of ways that we can fix the problem.
Right.
But he's not where I am yet. Yep. I mean, the same thing with my children. So you have to give them an idea. Give them your I always think of have your cards. You've got your cards. You know what your plan is. Lay your cards on the table and walk away for a minute. Walk away. They need processing time too. And it's the same with our clients. They need processing time too. So if you're having, I know that a lot of coaches have 6-week programs or 30-day programs. Maybe you need to adjust that. I mean, it's the same content, but build in some processing time for them.
Right.
They're not going to give you results. I mean, look how long it took some coaches to create their programs.
Mm-hmm.
It took months or years to create these programs.
Right.
Your clients are going to need that time to process the information you're giving them because it's the first time they've heard it.
Right.
I always say that when I go to the doctors, like if the doctor's saying something to me, I'm like, and they start rattling off all these names, I'm like, okay, whoa. You may have said this a million times to a million different patients, but this is the first time I'm hearing it. And so I need you to slow down. I may need to take notes, and I am going to have questions. And as soon as I say that, the first thing they do is they stop. And they're like, oh, they realize they were just rattling off.
Right.
On autopilot. And it's the same with coaches a lot of times that we get in that, and teachers, we get in that mode where we're problem solvers. We're fixing these things. We need to stop. We need to pause. We need to realize someone's receiving this information.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to let them absorb it and use it and figure out how they're going to use it.
And that kind of leads us into a little thing that you have to give, because along with all that is positive words and encouragement, and sometimes how those, just that, little phrase or a couple words make a huge difference, even to yourself, even if you say it to yourself. So you created a PDF to give to everybody, which will be on my website right next to this interview for you to download right away and use. But share a little bit about that as we wrap this up, because there's multi uses with this.
Exactly. I've geared it toward children because that's my core audience right now. I also coach with parents, so I like to have it with them. But this is absolutely words that I've used with teams. I've used with adults. These are things that you can use with yourself. It's so good. We all like working with people who acknowledge the best in us, encourage us, motivate us, lift us up. And we love hearing those words. But we also have to be careful. Our words have power.
Mm-hmm.
Our words have power. We have the power to be an encourager or a discourager. And I like to be an encourager. It's not about me. What someone chooses to do isn't a reflection on my behavior or my character.
Right.
And we have to release ourselves from that. So, and especially, thinking about words that we use with children or with other people, are we talking about their performance ability? Or are we talking about about their behavior that you've noticed or their effort? And that's where we need to focus it on. So I've had this list of words, encouraging words and phrases that you can use, like, don't be afraid to thank someone for their help, their help with you. Say thank you for your help.
Yeah.
And say, give compliments. They're free. They're like a gift. And don't be afraid to receive them back in. A lot of times when somebody will say, oh, I like what you have on, they go, oh, this old thing, and it's like you just gave them this gift and they opened it up and they're like, oh, that's not even worthy of anything. So be able to receive that in too, like, oh, wow, you did really well with this. I know that last week you were struggling, but this week it really made sense to you, or way to go. Give out high fives.
Yeah.
High fives. I give out, a lot of times in my classroom, I give out stickers. I have students that are so excited to get a sticker.
Yeah.
So just give out those.
Remember those days.
Right. And
actually,
we want that sticker on our forehead.
I even did this, it's been over 10 years now, but at my last place of employment, it was still under construction. And so there were workers there building out the floors that we weren't on to have them for classrooms and everything. And if somebody accomplished something or did something really good, or we had a request and they just were right on top of it, I had the little stickers, the red, gold, green, and blue stickers or something. And I'd say, you get a gold star today, and I'd put it on their hard hat.
Right.
And they liked it.
And they started looking for others that had more stars. And they're like, well,
right. It was funny. It's a fun way to raise vibrations, if people use that language, but to get you in a good mood, right? And get everybody more lighthearted and everything. It really, encouraging words really do help.
Exactly. I noticed you were really patient with me while I was processing through that, or I was working through that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Your hard work really paid off. Notice their effort.
Yeah.
Notice their behavior. You really worked that out. Or that's what I call perseverance. You stuck with it. And I'm so glad that you stuck with it. I know that it was a challenge for you, but thank you for sticking with it. And don't you feel better? It makes more sense to you now. And of course, my students will usually go, yeah. Or even your friends. I mean, talk about how if they notice something, well, thank you for noticing that. Gosh, I'm too close to the project. I really couldn't see that, but thank you for that input. That really put a little spin on it for me. So, be aware of your words have power.
Yeah.
Choose them and use them wisely.
And soak all the good stuff up when people give you compliments.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to accept it. Say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. When people always say, like I said, when people say, oh, this is, just say thank you.
Yeah. I worked with somebody on that too, of a couple people actually, just because it is somehow we get into this thing where we want to negate stuff. And I practiced it, just stopping at thank you.
Exactly.
Just stop it. Thank you. Just don't say anything else. After a while, it comes more naturally, and it's much easier to accept compliments and things like that. But if you're not used to doing that, be really aware and just stop at thank you.
Stop at thank you.
It gets much easier to accept.
Yeah. How would you accept a gift? You would just say thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this PDF that they can keep up, post up, use it for themselves, use it for their friends, use it on their children. Mm-hmm. Use it.
Use it. Even pull things off and maybe write a little sticky note and put it on your bathroom mirror or on your dashboard in your car or something that might be encouraging to you, or stick it in your kid's lunch or little things like that.
My daughter used to love getting sticky notes with something on it or joke on it or something.
Right.
But, and a sticky note. I mean, how hard is that to just write a sticky note?
Yeah.
Yourself. I had a dry erase marker and I'd write on the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you
inspired? To do it at night, so when you wake up in the morning, you've got your little dose of positivity for the day.
Be that person.
That's right.
That person that you want to be. Exactly. You don't have to justify it. Just like narrowing your niche, you don't have to justify what you do. Just do it.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Patti, thank you so much for joining me today and being my last interview for 2016. I've wrapped up 2 years now. It's pretty exciting for something that was a whim, an inspiration that came to me a few years ago, and had no idea for how long or where I would take it or anything. But I love doing it because I love connecting with all these people. I feel like I create a net around the world of all these awesome people that I can use as resources or connect with other people. And I think it's been wonderful for me, and I hope it's been wonderful for all my guests too, because this stuff, it's out there forever, so it's always something to go back to.
Great. Well, I thank you. I'm so grateful to be included in this. And of course, I'm thrilled to be in both books with you.
I know, that's so awesome.
And I think you're a definite model of that phrase, a rising tide lifts all ships. You're not afraid to lift others. And I think
Thank you.
You're putting it to action. And I love that.
I love doing that. I love doing that more than promoting myself, actually. We'll get over that part someday. But anyway, so if you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you head over to CherriseBoucher.com and go over to the Inspire View Series tab so that you can find not only this year, but I've got an easy peasy PDF of all of last year's with links. And Patti's contact information will be there along with this video and the PDF for you to download.
Great.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody and to you.
Yes. Thank you again.